Free my hero Stratos! "2007 is a wild year, with a few power cards being banned, a few lackluster cards being released from the list, and then a couple of out-of-context head-scratchers. Starting with the OCG bans, we have Breaker the Magical Warrior, which is admittedly a +1 in card advantage when popping a spell or trap, and a decent tempo monster otherwise. But does it really deserve to be banned? This may be collateral damage from Elemental Hero Stratos being introduced in the game, offering a similar effect for the hero super archetype. Breaker the Magical Warrior was a more generic card in the same niche, and was featured in the toolbox of pretty much every Chaos or Warrior staple deck, so the ban may be the result of such widespread play. It is odd to see a strong generic card on the FNL list, but still understandable. Cyberstein, on the other hand, is a very obvious ban, as this card is meta-warping. If you did not catch the dedicated video, in short, this card had to be emergency banned right after the TCG release, in the middle of a tournament. This is the single strongest tempo card in the game, and can easily bring out Cyber and Dragon. With your life points lower than your opponent's, you activate Megamorph and attack for 8,000 damage. Then, back to the inexplicable, Magician of Faith is banned. This card is slow, but can recover an important spell card. Perhaps there is a bit of the same rationale behind the Regrowth ban, in which the card circumvents the limited status of powerful spells. Or perhaps another staple casualty. Victory Dragon is back to a well-deserved ban though, as the match winner is poorly designed. Being able to win the match with a single duel trivializes the other two games, and the card should remain banned on principle. I blame Gold and Silva for Graceful Charity getting banned, since special summoning a couple strong monsters and drawing 3 cards off a single spell is pretty nutty. Not to mention the later Dark World monsters, which make Graceful Charity even better. Last Will was underrated, but is debatably the best tutor for low attack point monsters, and even special summons them directly from the deck, allowing for further play extension. Moving on to the limitations, Jaden has 2 of his best cards hit on the list. But don't worry, being a protagonist means that he only has 1 copy of his strongest cards, so he will not be affected. Yet. Elemental Hero Stratos would be really good with either one of the effects. The first of which is instantly popping a back row card on summon, with the ceiling of popping 5 spell or traps. 6 with the extra monster zone now. The second effect is the ability to search through a pretty deep pool of monsters, with my favorite 2 targets being Elemental Hero Bubbleman for an easy special summon from hand, and Destiny Hero Diamond Dude, who has a whole deck named after his unique effect. Jaden's other monster on the list is Neospatian Grandmal, which is non-targeting, non-destruction removal that recycles itself. Even if it takes up your normal summon, this is a strong generic answer to 1 monster on your opponent's side of the field. Last for the limited monsters is Gors, the Emissary of Darkness, which is a great swing card and has the legacy of players choosing to attack directly in ascending order of attack points to play around Gors and the battle damage token. But the card can also be used against first turn burn strategies. This card can be a big tempo shift, but since it cannot be used aggressively, I don't think it is quite worth a ban. Chain Strike is another card which has a deck named after it, notably Chain Burn. There are still plenty of playable burn cards, but the limitation does decrease the damage potential and consistency of the deck. Dimension Fusion has a fixed cost of 2,000 life points, and is a spell which can be activated sooner than the scarier Return from the Different Dimension. Having more initiative is not the only benefit of the card being a spell, as the life point cost can be covered by spell economics, and the card can be retrieved by Dark Magician of Chaos. Throw in Cannon Soldier and you have an infinite burn combo. FTK potential is always a good reason to restrict a card in my opinion. Giant Grenade gets bumped down to limited, following the previous semi-limit for recycling continuous spells and bouncing back row to facilitate OTKs. Gold Sarcophagus is strictly better than Different Dimension Capsule, which was already seeing limited competitive play. But banishing the card face-up makes a world of difference. DD Scoutplane ignores the weight and will special summon itself during the end phase, and Necroface is an odd target to load the banish zone. The latter lacks a once per turn restriction, so banishing another copy will trigger the second Necroface to banish another 5 cards. Overload Fusion is the follow-up to Future Fusion, and most notoriously would be used to bring out a large Chimera Tech Overdragon after filling the graveyard with machines. Overload Fusion is restricted to dark machine-type fusion monsters, but not just Cyber Dragon fusions, and another target which saw competitive success was Gatling Dragon. Snatch Steal is let loose, and this won't be the last time. At least Hidden Armory hasn't been printed quite yet. Stealing a monster is always going to be a strong effect, especially if you can keep control for more than a turn or two. Banning Breaker means that there is one less answer to Snatch Steal as well. Last limitation is Mind Crush, which is a strong disruption tool, but I think what really begins to break the card is Dark World monsters being able to benefit from the card's fail state. Guessing blind, or even purposefully wrong, can lead to a decent board presence now. I blame Gold and Silva again. Finishing up the OCG list with both the Semi and Unlimits, none of which are mind-blowing. DD Assailant goes to 2, with DD Warrior Lady still being the superior card, since it does not need to be destroyed to activate the effect, and the slightly lower attack points makes the card easier to search. Mask of Darkness was never the problem. The Time Seal lock is not healthy for the game, but since Tsukiyomi is banned, the flip-flop deck is no longer an issue. Also due to a recent ban, in this case, Thousand Eyes Restrict, Metamorphosis can go to semi-limited as well, since the problem card is gone. There are other scary fusion monsters like the Last Warrior from Another Planet, but that is not relevant at the moment. Exiled Force is newly unlimited, as it is solid removal, but usually exhausts the normal summon in the process. Injection Fairlily is now an appropriate power level for the meta, and can be used to get over a big monster or push damage. I actually have a bit of a theory for Sacred Phoenix of Nifs going from 1 to 3 instead of more incremental changes. Running more than one copy of a 2 tribute monster is not great for consistency. But with the Sacred Phoenix in particular, the tutor Hand of Nifs makes more than one copy a little redundant. In that way, the limitation is somewhat pointless, similar to how extra deck monsters are often unlimited or forbidden. Last is Upstart Goblin, which is good for boosting consistency in a deck, and it did see a little success alongside Life Equalizer, where the life gain you give your opponent is actually useful. Briefly looking at the TCG list, there is one major difference, being Crush Card Virus. This card is really strong, potentially wiping your opponent's board, discarding monsters from hand, and denying strong monsters drawn for the next few turns. Even when it doesn't hit cards in the hand or deck, the information is still valuable. It is a shame that the card eventually got an erratum, but understandable. I do think that power level was not the sole reason for the limitation though, as low supply of crush cards in circulation gave some players a substantial advantage. Number 106 Giant Hand and Blood Mephist had a similar problem, and it is something that might not immediately come to mind for the contemporary audience, and especially so when playing in a simulator. 2007 had a substantial meta shakeup, and notably the rise of engines and archetypes in the metagame. I am excited to cover this year's TCG tournaments in the near future.